morning. The first 5 military people I saw in the hallway all expressed their dismay, their concern, and their uncertainty about what lies ahead. And the bottom line for the U.S. military, when they feel uncertainty, there is nothing more serious than that. John, Allison.
I got to tell you, Barbara Starr at the Pentagon, I've heard the exact same thing from active duty service members who normally don't weigh in like this, who normally keep a degree of separation. Not this time, not at all. Joining us now, CNN's Abby Phillip and John Avlon, and national correspondent for Bloomberg Business Week, Josh Green. Josh, a few minutes ago, we talked to Jim Banks, a Republican from Indiana on the Armed Services Committee, a big supporter of President Trump, extremely critical of the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Syria, the plans in Afghanistan, extremely unsettled by the departure of James Mattis. In that dynamic where Republican supporters of President Trump are shaken, that, to me, is one of the most interesting and perhaps long-lasting impacts of what the president has done.
I think that's right. I was speaking to a former White House official last night after the Mattis news broke who told me Trump is in a death spiral. With Mattis leaving, with the adults gone, there are no guardrails on this administration. You have investigations. You have huge geostrategic questions now. And, of course, you have a stock market that's in collapse. All of these things happening as a government shutdown looms a few hours from now and a new Democratic Congress is coming in. I mean, every sign you look at points in a bad direction for Trump and for Republicans. And I think for the first time, they're realizing that there's no clear means by which things are going to get better.
So, John, I guess you can't run the United States like your family business. I mean, I guess that some days it's revealed that acting in a unilateral way, an impetuous way, does have really vast consequences for people like the rank and file, as Barbara Starr is talking about, for James Mattis, who, because of his principles, had to quit. I mean, I guess that the fantasy of, well, we're going to run this like a business, and who's better to do that than Donald Trump? Some days you see the problem with that thing.
The problem couldn't be more stark, and it goes beyond the idea that you can run government like a business. The problem is if you've got someone in the Oval Office who thinks about everything through the prism of self-interest, when that office really requires someone who can transcend self-interest and think about the national interest, think about international responsibility, think about the consequences of their actions. And also have a sense of continuity with the history of our constitutional republic, which this president does not. These things matter. That's why studying history matters. And this president's determined ignorance and egotism leads to a crisis of confidence like this. And it is all self-inflicted. That's important to understand. America's strong. The culture of our country didn't change on Election Day. But this president is creating compounding self-inflicted crises that are now being felt throughout our government, throughout our economy, and the world order that Americans of different generations have done so much to secure. There's nothing more serious than that.
You know, Abby, I was really curious what would happen when the president woke up this morning and saw the worldwide reaction to the letter that James Mattis wrote, the resignation
What did I
letter.
predict would happen?
Well, what did you predict would happen?
He would tweet.
He has, in fact, tweeted. He will also breathe air and drink water. I mean, that's not.
I also
you're not
predicted
going
that.
out on a limb. So the president has tweeted, but Abby, it's interesting. He's not addressing the James Mattis situation at all. Not even a little bit on Twitter. He's all talking about the shutdown in domestic politics. Will he be able to continue that throughout the day? Is that what he's going to try to do, you think? Look over here, not at the fact that U.S. allies and Republicans on Capitol Hill right now feel that the world is less safe?
Yeah, I think he's doing exactly what we would expect him to do, which is to focus on the base, focus on the thing that he thinks is going to ingratiate him the most with the people that he cares about the most. That is a strategy for today. It's probably not a strategy for the next several months. And as Josh pointed out, this White House is entering into one of the most perilous, if not the most perilous period that it has experienced so far. Remember, the president just lost his chief of staff, had trouble finding someone who would replace him, has named someone an acting chief of staff, hanging open the possibility that he needs someone to fill that role on a permanent basis. He now has to replace a secretary of defense. He has already replaced an attorney general who is going in to a contentious confirmation hearing. this is a White House that is facing a lot of headwinds and a president who is dealing with one crisis at a time, not in any strategic way, but just simply trying to get through the day. For right now, he feels like he's gotten a major victory with House Republicans last night, but the Senate is going to be a huge, huge problem. And President Trump is trying to get Mitch McConnell to end the filibuster, to make this easier for him in the moment, which could potentially create even more problems for him when he has a House controlled by Democrats in January. Again, there is no strategy here. There is just an effort to kind of get through this latest thing. And I think what the Jim Mattis departure really highlights is that, Republicans on the Hill are starting to finally worry about this. I think foreign policy has been kind of like the last, the last resort here for Republicans. And now they feel like there are no guardrails there anymore. And I think we'll see more and more concern, more and more willingness to speak up about the broader issue of a lack of strategy from this White House, and frankly, a lack of organization around the basic tenets of governance that has gone without comment from Republicans for the last 2 years. I think they're finally starting to pay attention, even though this has been going on for quite some time.
So, Josh, part of the chaos is that less than 16 hours from now, the government will shut down unless there's some sort of compromise, unless Mitch McConnell can pull some sort of rabbit out of his hat. And just let's cast our memories back. I really don't know if it was last week or Monday when the president 2 weeks ago, I'm told, when the president sat down with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, and for a split second, he took responsibility. He issued the ultimatum. If there's no border wall, I'm willing to take the responsibility for the shutdown. Let's remind people of that moment in time.
We disagree. I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck, because the people of this country don't want criminals and people that have lots of problems and drugs pouring into our country. I will take the mantle of shutting down, and I'm going to shut it down for border security. But we believe you.
Okay, that moment of responsibility did not last. And this morning, the president is rebranding. We should have a sound effect for a rebranding alert. Here it is. Senator Mitch McConnell should fight for the wall and border security as hard as he fought for anything. He will need Democrat votes. But as shown in the House, good things happen. If enough Democrats don't vote, it will be a Democrat shutdown.
That's not what he said.
House Republicans were great yesterday.
He didn't say Democrat shutdown.
No, then he said he was going to take responsibility, but something has changed, strangely, Josh.
Well, what's changed is the ramifications of that statement are becoming clear. In less than 16 hours, the government is going to shut down. So Trump is doing what he characteristically does when he's under pressure, and he's throwing the hot potato to Mitch McConnell and trying to absolve himself of blame. I think the bigger problem here is that Trump, instead of listening to his generals, has been listening to right-wing media personalities. And by following their strategy and their admonition that he has to stand tough on the wall, what they've done is driven him into a box canyon. There's no clear exit strategy for Trump and Republicans, even if the government does shut down. So, as John and Abby have said, he seems to be governing by impulse, moment to moment, without any larger thought to where this is going to lead and how he's going to get out of it.
Yeah, and look, first of all, if we are going to have a rebranding alert, it should just be jazz hands, I think, thrown up on the screen. I'll make that suggestion from a production standpoint. But look, what the president's doing here, listening to right-wing media, the fundamental problem is right-wing media's responsibility is to get ratings. Yeah. It doesn't have the responsibility of governing. And so when the president listens to him in topsy-turvy land, we get things like this. And we are hours away from a Christmas shutdown brought by a Republican president with a Republican Congress. That itself is bizarro world. So as he contemplates the situation he's got him in and the fact that there is no strategy, it reminds me of his nemesis John McCain's favorite joke, which was, it's just always darkest just before it goes completely black. That's the situation in the White House right now, folks. The problem is it's not just about him. It's about all of us.
I have to say, and he is putting Mitch McConnell on the spot and in a bind. He's saying Mitch McConnell should use the nuclear option to try to pass this budget with just 50 votes. McConnell's not going to do that. Mitch McConnell has made clear he will not do that. This is what the president just said on Twitter for those who want to know.
Should I do jazz hands here?
Or spirit fingers or both. Look, the nuclear option, so what people know about is that funding bills like this require 60 votes in the Senate by Senate rules. The president is suggesting they change those rules to pass it with 50. Mitch McConnell doesn't want to do that because Mitch McConnell has a long view and memory of what happens in the Senate. He also, Mitch McConnell, is miffed, is the way you put it. Miffed at the president right now, to say the least. He's really upset about the shutdown and how this has gone out. He's really upset about James Mattis. He put out a blistering statement in Mitch McConnell terms for the resignation of Mattis and the president's role in that, Josh. So I just wonder, what will McConnell do today? How far out on a limb will McConnell go for the president?
Well, we'll see. I mean, we've been told to expect a vote around noon today, and the presumption is that vote is going to fail. And when it does, it's likely that the government shuts down. And then